Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, good morning, everybody. We are gonna get started in a couple minutes. I know it's 11:25 right now. So first of all, good morning. If you're just joining us, welcome back. Happy Monday, everyone. I see we already have a lot of friends joining us, so go ahead. If you're just popping into our session, first of all, good morning and welcome. We would love to hear where you're joining us from. So if you are coming back to here, visit us here on Facebook Live for our Monday programming, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section. Okay, so this way, Miss Caroline and I can know where you're joining us from. So go ahead and do that now. We're gonna get started in a few minutes. Oh, I see. Good morning to Javier from St. Francis Academy. I recognize a lot of friends joining us from there. Awesome. Good morning from our friends from Tinton Falls. Oh, from Mississippi. That's awesome. That's really cool. From Manville, New Jersey and Virginia. Good morning, Ruth. Good morning, friends. Oh, hi, Gabrielle. From TJC Families and the Jewish Center of Princeton. Welcome. Hi, Abby. Good morning. Good morning to Livy from Howell, New Jersey. Welcome. Oh, Carmelo. Hi, Carmelo. Carmelo's one of our friends that joins us from our LSC homeschool days and homeschool family groups. So welcome. It's great to know that some of our homeschool friends are joining us. That's awesome. Good morning. Good morning. So friends, if you're just popping in and you want to make sure you didn't miss anything, don't worry, we haven't gotten started yet. It is 11:27. We're going to get started in a couple more minutes. But while we're waiting, friends, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from, okay? And we'll get started shortly. Good morning, Kiki from downtown New Jersey City. Oh, you're right by LSC. We miss you guys too. We hope to see everybody back at the Science Center very, very soon. That's for sure. Hi, Sandra. Good morning. Good morning to Abby from Roosevelt School. Awesome. Manville, New Jersey. Awesome. All right, friends, we have a couple more minutes. Hello, good morning, everybody. If you notice that I didn't say good morning to you guys, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from. Let us know your name, okay? And please know that even though we don't say good morning to you specifically, we're so glad you're here. We're glad that you're able to join us back here on Monday, right? If this is your very first time, our Monday programs are for our friends that are from pre-K to second grade, right? This is our LSC Junior content. So if you're from within that age group, this is the program for you. Today is a little bit of a special program. We'll talk about why that's special in a little bit, right? But today's program is going to go from pre-K all the way up to third grade too. So we'll welcome everybody. Right. If you're a little bit older than pre-K to second grade, welcome. We're still really glad you're here too. We're glad you're joining us. And if you notice, right, usually we let you all know what materials you might need for all of our programs, especially here on our Monday programs. But if you didn't see any materials, that's okay. You don't need any materials for today's program, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, okay? But if you're popping in and you're joining us here, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to continue letting us know where you're joining us from, okay? All right. So hello, hi, Katie from Old Bridge. Hi, Shivani. Good morning. Oh no, I see Satvik from Texas. That's awesome. That's really cool. Wow. All right. Okay. So it's 11:30. Yeah. All right, my friends. So we're gonna get started, and so the screen you're gonna see is gonna change. And today I have a very special friend and who's joining me to teach today's program is Miss Caroline.
Hello,
Okay.
good morning everyone. Maybe you've seen me on Tuesdays for our Live Room series. Today is an extra fun lesson, and the reason I'm helping Mr. Kango today is because we're going to do 3 different slime recipes. And here at LSC, Mr. Kango is the Oobleck master.
I don't know about that, Miss Caroline, but I appreciate that.
But everyone knows that I make the best slime. So
that is for sure.
Everyone comes to me for slime recipes, but Mr. Kango makes the best oobleck, so we decided to partner up for today's program for Slimy Time and bring you a really, really fun lesson. So, hopefully you can understand this is our first time doing something like this with both of us in different places. So if we're a little slow or have some technical difficulties, we promise that the slime recipe and your gooey fun at the end is going to be so worth it. So, Mr. Kango, are you ready to dive into our lesson?
Absolutely. And you know what, Miss Caroline, before we get started, I do want to just say thank you to all of our families that have been supporting us, even though, like you mentioned, we're doing programs like this one from home. So LSC is a nonprofit organization, and as a nonprofit, we love reaching out and working with our families and our friends straight from home, especially right now since we can't welcome you back to the building. So since we're a nonprofit, we do and we love doing programs just like this week after week. It brings me so much happiness, and I know that goes the same for all of our educators. We do ask and encourage anyone that is willing to donate to LSC to visit lsc.org/donate, and we welcome any contributions that you can make at this time, small or large, and thank you to all of our families and friends that have donated so far.
Thank you, Mr. Kango. So, as we said, today is slime time. So, good morning to all my scientists, and welcome to another live session hosted by me and Mr. Kango. Today is going to be all about slime. So, this is slime. It's stretchy, it's squishy, and it's super fun to play with. But scientists, we can learn a lot from slime. Slime is actually chemistry, and it's something called a non-Newtonian fluid. So chemistry is all about different states of matter, including liquids, solids, gases, and chemistry is all about different materials and how they're put together, and how these materials that are put together act under different conditions. So we're going to be going through a few different fun slime recipes, but I want to teach you a little bit about the chemistry behind slime first. So what makes slime so stretchy? So slime is all about something called polymers. A polymer is made up of very large chains of something called molecules, and molecules make up all matter. So the glue that we're going to be using in slime is made up of long chains of a really scientific word. That word is polyvinyl acetate molecules. So that's why we recommend using Elmer's glue or white school glue for this experiment. This lesson is going to be a walkthrough, but we did provide a tutorial that's going to be sent in the comments. It's a PDF of how to make the slime as we walk you through it. So these change of molecules slide past one each other pretty easily, and that's kind of what keeps the glue flowing. And that's what keeps our slime squishy. That's why glue is such a great ingredient to work with. So if you've ever made a long paper chain out of paper clips like I have here, you already have a visual image of what a polymer or a polymer chain looks like. Except these polymer chains are super, super tiny molecules that are combined together. And polymer actually comes from a Greek word, poly, meaning many, and meros, or many, meaning many parts. So a very simple way to remember polymers is using that paper clip chain, or combining the two words that are two separate meanings. So there's a lot of things that are made up of polymers. So polymers give us a lot of really great uses. They make up components of objects that we use in our daily lives. We can see polymer links and chains in DNA and RNA, in silk, wool, hair, our fingernails, proteins. There's also man-made polymers, just like the glue used for this and this slime. So man-made polymers are usually referred to as plastics. They can be shaped and molded into different forms, just like rubber, oil, or this slime that we're going to be making today. There's a lot of examples of polymers all around us every day. Slime is also something called a non-Newtonian fluid, and that's where Mr. Kango is going to take over and talk about non-Newtonian fluids.
Right, so friends, a non-Newtonian fluid is very much like what Miss Caroline is holding right now. It's a perfect example, right? Slime is a non-Newtonian fluid. So what does that word mean? We're going to go over a couple of different examples of non-Newtonian fluids today, right? Oobleck is a great example of a non-Newtonian fluid, as is slime, okay? But also things like ketchup, that's also a non-Newtonian fluid too. A non-Newtonian fluid is something that doesn't quite act like a solid or a liquid. And we might know a lot about those two states of matter already, right? We know things that we describe as solids are hard, and things that we describe as a liquid kind of take the shape of their container, right? So if Mr. Kango were to take our water and I pour it into a cup, it'd take the shape of that cup. If I were to pour it into my vase for flowers, right, to have in my kitchen or in my house, it would take the shape of the vase, okay? Now, non-Newtonian fluids, like slime and oobleck, they kind of don't act and follow those things strictly. They change their properties based on something else besides temperature, right? So when we take a look at our oobleck, which we're going to do in a moment, oobleck's up first. When we take a look at our oobleck, it's going to change based on pressure. So when Mr. Kango is going to be working with our oobleck, you're going to see when I add some quick pressure, like if I poke it, right, it's going to act more like a solid. But when I let it go, it's going to act more like a liquid, okay? Now, I hope that makes sense, friends. So a non-Newtonian fluid, friends, just to recap, right, is something that doesn't quite act like a liquid or a solid, okay? It acts kind of like something in between, all right? Now, there are some safety things we want to make sure, just like whenever we do science, we want to make sure that you're safe from home when you're doing these experiments, right? And we want to make sure that we are safe too, okay? So let's go over those safety things. Okay, so let's try that. Now, the first thing, friends, we want to make sure we do not eat the slime. I know that's simple, right? And you might think, oh, Mr. Kango, of course I'm not going to eat the slime. But you know what? It's still great just to make sure. And that goes for all of our little friends at home too. So if you have a baby brother or a sister, right, who's really young, and if they're really young, they don't know to not put things in their mouth, right? Okay, so they might not know to not put the slime in their mouth. So make sure you're working with your slime or oobleck in a place that's safe for you and your family, but also a safe place for all your little friends to do. And that goes for your pets too, okay? So I have a dog at home, and I know he'd probably find this slime or oobleck very delicious, but I'm gonna make sure to keep it up high, away from him so he doesn't get hurt, okay? The next thing, friends, and I'm looking, if you see me looking over here, that's just to make sure I'm keeping an eye out for our comments live on Facebook, okay? But also, friends, we want to make sure we're going over how to store it, okay? Make sure you're asking an adult where you can work and what materials you can work with, okay? And I know at the very end, actually, we're going to go over how to store it, friends, okay? So I think we're ready to try our Oobleck. What do you think, Miss Caroline? Are we ready to try that?
I think we're ready. So we can go over the ingredients now. Mr. Kingo, they're up on screen for everyone to see.
Awesome. So friends, what you're going to see on the screen, right, is that for today's Oobleck experiment, you're going to need some of the materials right on the screen right now. But like I mentioned in the beginning, today's a little bit different from how we might normally do it, right? We might ask you to have those materials right in front of you by the start of the program, or quickly gather them to follow along from home. But since today we're making slime, right, and it is a lot of materials, feel free just to watch from home and figure out which one is your favorite, okay? So what you're gonna need is some cornstarch. You're also gonna need some water, a spoon, a large bowl, and things to clean up your Oobleck. Oobleck is a lot of fun, but it can get very messy. So make sure, friends, that you're being careful. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and show you some of those things, or what the Oobleck might look like, okay? And so let's try that. So Oobleck, like we mentioned, friends, is a non-Newtonian fluid, right? So it's something that doesn't quite act like a solid or a liquid. And we mentioned a little bit about what we're going to notice with our Oobleck in the very beginning when we were going over non-Newtonian fluids. So Oobleck is very special, right? Not only because it's a lot of fun, but it is part of storybooks that we might recognize. So you see on the screen Bartholomew and the Oobleck. It's a great story, right? I love it. It's a really long story, but I do enjoy it, okay? Now Oobleck, friends, is also very messy, so make sure again that you're working, if you choose to work with Oobleck, you're working in a place that's safe, right? And that is okay with your family and safe for you yourself. Now, when we work with our Oobleck, what you're going to notice is that it doesn't change depending on temperature. So we were using an example of water before, right? Now, if I was to take my water and I were to pour it into an ice cube tray and put that ice cube tray into the freezer, it would change, right? It would freeze and become solid, become ice, right? And if I took that out and I put it in the hot sun, it would melt and become a liquid, right? Again, like this. But if I were to leave that still out in the hot sun over a long period of time, it would start to disappear, right? And turn into a gas. That's because of all the temperature changes that are happening, right? Now, Oobleck is different. It changes, again, based on pressure. So what we're going to notice is that Oobleck that we're seeing on the screen right now, it's going to change and act more like a solid if I add a quick force, right? But act more like a liquid if I just apply a little force. And that's because it's going to change based on its viscosity. So if you're following along from home, right, and you never heard that word, that's a great word to practice saying. So let's say it, viscosity, right? And that's basically the thickness. So the thickness is going to change depending upon the pressure we add. If I add a quick force, right, all these little bits of Oobleck, right, and inside the Oobleck there's lots of different little bits of cornstarch. All those little bits of cornstarch don't have time to move away. So they stick together, right? And they act very much like a solid, right? So if we poke it, it just kind of stays together. But if we place our finger down gently and just hold it there, all those little bits of particles of our Oobleck have time to move away from each other, and it ends up acting more like a liquid. Now we can see this really clearly if we take a look at some pictures. Okay, so let's try that. So the first one, right, we can see that if we grab our Oobleck and we squeeze in our hand and apply a quick force, it acts more like a solid, like we mentioned, right? And we can also see this if we take Oobleck and end up rolling it like this. So if you're following along from home and you just want to practice that, you can roll your hands like this, back and forth, right? And when we do this, and I'm going to try it later with my Oobleck that I'm going to make. When we go like this, it's going to stay together, right? All those tiny bits of Oobleck and cornstarch are going to stay together. But if we let go, we can see something different. So let's take a look at the next picture. If we let go, friends, you can see that the oobleck starts to drip, okay? And it ends up acting more like a liquid. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, friends, right? Oobleck is a non-Newtonian fluid because it doesn't act quite like a solid or a liquid and changes not based on temperature like water, but changes based on pressure, right? And those changes affect its viscosity, its thickness. So we're going to try this because I'm sure you want to take a look at how to make oobleck. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen, all right, friends? And I'm going to show you what I have in front of me. So hopefully you're seeing all of my materials that I've gathered, right? And you see Mr. King's mouse, so I'm going to move my mouse out of the way. But what you're going to need to try this at home, friends, is you're going to need a big bowl. So here's my big bowl, okay? And I'll put this here. And you're also going to need some cornstarch. Now, the recipe, and Miss Caroline mentioned this earlier, the recipe to follow and try this again later from home is in the chat, so you can see it, right? And you can download that PDF file so you can have the recipe, so you don't have to write anything down. You can just follow along from home. So you're going to need some cornstarch, and for my recipe, I used 2.5 cups, right? So I just took the same Dixie cup and I filled it up twice, and then I took a third cup and filled it up halfway. And you're also going to need about 1 cup of water. So the first thing you're going to do, friends, is you're going to add your water, right? And since we said this is messy, you want to make sure that you also have things ready to clean up, right? So I have my wet wipes, and I also have some paper towel. Okay. So I added some water. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my cornstarch. Now instead of pouring everything in at the same time, I'm going to add a little bit at a time. So I'm going to take my spoon, right, and I'm doing about a half of each cup at a time. And after I put it in, I'm just stirring it all together, right? Now, once you feel like it's mixed, you can go ahead and add more cornstarch. And this is just the recipe that I felt worked really well for me when I was trying it back and forth. But if you wanted to play with the ingredients, you can certainly try this, right? And there's lots of different recipes online. Normally you see it where it's 2 cups or 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part water. Meaning if you add 2 cups of cornstarch, you want to add 1 cup of water. But for me, I felt like the best, especially when trying to show our friends from home what oobleck is and making sure you can see it, I felt 2.5 was really good. A great consistency. Now you can't really tell, right? It's still very much like a liquid, right? But if we keep adding more and more cornstarch, the thicker our oobleck is going to become. So here I'm on my 2nd cup now. I'm about halfway through. So if you've ever made cornstarch, or not cornstarch, if you've ever made oobleck from home, right, you might recognize this recipe or recognize what we're seeing. For today, I'm not adding any food coloring, friends, but you can certainly try this and add your favorite color, right? So if you're joining us from home and you wanted to let us know if you've ever made oobleck, and if you were to make oobleck, what color would you make it? You can certainly do that in the comment section and let us know what you think.
Wow, Mr. Kingo, that looks like it's coming out really good. I'm looking at our comments, and someone said in the comments it's like cooking. So one of my favorite things to say is you can do a lot of kitchen chemistry. That's what we're going to be doing today. Everything that we're using can be found, just household items. We're doing a lot of this really fun kitchen chemistry. So yeah, it is like cooking.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, Miss Caroline. Yeah, it's very much like cooking. And these are great things to find around your house. Yeah. So this is something that we really love doing, making sure if we're doing experiments here live, right, and suggesting for things for you to try from home, we want to make sure there are things that you may already have around your house. That way you can try it right away, right, and have fun exploring science with us right away. So I'm on my last cup, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but I can certainly tell it's getting harder to move and stir my oobleck.
I can see it, Mr. Kango. It looks great. So, what Mr. Kango was doing, and I want you to notice this, and it's going to be involved in our other recipes. So, Mr. Kango's mixing and adding. So, he doesn't know if he's going to need a little more cornstarch or a little more water to get that perfect consistency. But see, we're acting like scientists, and we're testing out these ideas. We're testing out these recipes of combining these different states of matter together, right, Mr. Kango?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, friends, it's perfectly fine to experiment, right? So just like Miss Caroline said, and I'm really glad you said that, Miss Caroline, I might not know if this is the exact proportion I want or consistency I want, right? So I'm going slow, adding in a little bit at a time, right? Just to make sure that I like my final product, right? And it's not a race. Okay, so I'm almost there, right? Now I'm gonna add just a little bit more.
So everyone in the comments, if you are making slime or oobleck, what color, food coloring would you pick? What's your favorite color? Oh, and I see someone says, can you include the recipe in the comments for later? So if you just joined late, the link to the PDF that we made a walkthrough guide for you is in the description and also in the comments. And we will share that at the end, and you will be able to see a step-by-step paper walkthrough guide of all 3 recipes that we're going to go through today. But in the meantime, why don't you tell us your favorite color and what color slime you would make?
All right. So friends, that I think is a pretty good consistency, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look, right? And if you were to take this out and I was to keep stirring and let it sit, it might settle a little better, right? But if I kept it sitting out, I would end up with something like this. So on this one, you can see that I have my oobleck already nice and prepared, right? And if I were to move this bowl and hold it up, right? And we talked about how oobleck acts very much like a solid if you add a quick poke, right? So let's try that. So I'm going to quickly poke it, and we don't see anything really happening. Right?
That looks so cool, Mr. Kango.
Oh, thanks, Miss Caroline. But if I add just a little bit of pressure and put my fingers there and just hold it, you're going to see my fingers start slowly disappearing, right? Now, in the beginning, we also did mention that you can roll it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and try that, and I'm going to try it over my big bowl, because we did mention that oobleck is kind of messy. So I'm going to take my oobleck, and I'm going to grab it, right? And you can see right away it's acting very much like a solid. Okay, so I'm going to grab it.
So someone in our comments wants to know how long does the cornstarch slime last. So we're going to go over that when we talk about, at the end, about storage and safely storing all of your different slime recipes. So great question, and we will address that at the end when we talk about how to store all of our different slime recipes. But I do see some favorite colors coming in: pink, red, green, blue.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to add some purple, some blue, some pink, right? So right now you're noticing that Mr. Kango is kind of rolling it into a ball, right? And it's keeping that solid shape, right? It looks like almost like a little bit of Play-Doh, right? But if I let go, we're going to see that it's going to start moving apart from itself and start dripping slowly, right? And it's going to make a big mess in my bowl. Okay, right? And it's starting to drip really well, right? And it's getting all over my fingers and starting to break apart. Okay? Now that's what we wanted to make sure you saw to understand a little bit more about how Oobleck doesn't quite act like a solid or a liquid, but is more an example of a non-Newtonian fluid, right, my friends? But making sure, and this is a great place to transition, because I wanted to make sure after each slime you try and make for yourself, you do take some time to wash your hands. So if you look at Mr. Kango's hands, it's a big mess, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn it back to Miss Caroline to go over making some slime this time. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Caroline.
Thank you, Mr. Kango. I loved your Oobleck recipe. I did promise you all that Mr. Kango is the master of Oobleck, but I am the master of slime. So our first recipe is going to be fluffy slime. So this is a little different than our other slime recipe. So this slime is going to give you a little bit of a different consistency. So this slime is mostly out of shaving cream slime. Fluffy slime looks like I'm making a pizza here. Looks like pizza dough a little bit. So fluffy slime is just like regular slime, except that the addition of shaving cream gives it a bit of a fluffier texture than usual regular silly putty. And the saline solution, or the eye contact solution, contains a little more chemistry terms I'm throwing in here: sodium borate and boric acid. So these two ingredients are members of the boron family, just as borax powder, which is in our second slime recipe. So we're also using white glue. So white school glue is a PVA, or polyvinyl acid, that we talked about before. It's part of that polymer family. So let's dive into making this fluffy slime. So my first ingredient, I'm gonna switch over to my other document camera, but my first ingredient is going to be shaving cream. So for this one, I am wearing gloves because I'm using a lot more ingredients. I'm gonna be switching slime recipes. This way I can just switch gloves and wash my hands or wipe them down with a wipe. So I'm going to need 3 cups of shaving cream. So let's start pouring that in there. And it's going to start expanding. It's going to get pretty big. And I'm going to mix with my hands because I'm using gloves. But normally, if you were mixing, I would recommend using a mixing spoon if you don't have gloves. So I've got this great shaving cream here, and I have my bowl, so I'm gonna just switch over to my other camera for you. I'm gonna put my finished slime to the side. So I'm gonna go over here and give me one moment to switch over to my document camera for you. So right over here I have my first mixing bowl. So I'm going to put the other one to the side. This is going to be our shaving cream slime recipe. I'm going to put my extra gloves to the side. And the first step is going to be pouring in my shaving cream. So I'm going to add my shaving cream to the bowl, and this looks really messy, but if it wasn't messy slime...
That's awesome, Miss Caroline.
Thank you, Mr. Kango. But if it wasn't messy slime, it wouldn't be that fun. So now I'm going to add some food coloring. And food coloring isn't important in the recipe. I just want it to be a fun color. So my other slime was green. I'm going to make this one red. I might mix it and make it a little color. So I want it to be this really pretty, bright red. It might come out a little pink. So pink is my favorite color. What's your favorite color, Mr. Kango?
Oh, Miss Caroline, I have a whole bunch of favorite colors. It's hard to choose one, but I would have to say it's a split tie between blue, purple, and pink.
Oh, I love purple, especially because LSC's colors are purple. So, you can see my pink shaving cream. So I used red to get this pink color. And now I'm going to add my Elmer's glue. And like I said, I might need to add a little more, and I may need to add a little less. So Mr. Kango, can you see the glue going into the bowl pretty clearly? I just added half a cup of Elmer's glue.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could see it right in the middle. It's settling, right? So it looks like you're all good.
So I'm starting to mix with my hands, and I'm wearing gloves, so I'm not getting as messy. And I may need to add more as I go, and you'll be able to feel the consistency. So the next thing I'm going to have to do is add a little bit of baking soda. So I have some baking soda right here. I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit. And this will give you a big batch of slime. So I did say, as I'm mixing, you can see the texture and the consistency of this slime start to change. And as I said, there is a lot of kitchen chemistry involved. So as I'm mixing these polymers, these different polymers are working together and connecting. So all these different ingredients have a bunch of molecules that they're a part of. Oh, that's a really nice texture. I'm getting that really nice slime. And the last ingredient to make it very slime-like is going to be my contact solution. So you may see this contact solution in your bathrooms, or maybe a family member has it. And this is usually 1 tablespoon, but since I'm making such a big batch, I'm going to just slowly add and add until I get a proper consistency. And don't worry too much about measurements, because those are included in our packet.
Miss Caroline, I'm seeing some comments coming in on Facebook saying it looks really cool. I'm seeing some of our friends saying it looks like lava.
Oh, pink lava. To me, it looks like a big pink bubble gum or cotton candy. It definitely feels like cotton candy. Woo. So I can see the slime texture start to form, but I want it to be a little thicker and connected. So you can see it's starting to rip apart once I kind of pull it up. I think I need to find a substance that will connect those molecules or make those polymers connect a little stronger. So again, my real difference in here is how much contact solution I add. So I'm just gonna keep squeezing and keep adding and mixing till I get that right consistency. So see, as I lift it and squeeze it in the bowl, it's starting to stick together more and more. What do you think, Mr. Kango?
I think it looks great. So it's very much like we did with our Oobleck, adding a little bit at a time, mixing it, taking your time, right? Being sure to be safe. I love that you're wearing some gloves, right? Just to protect your hands and your eyes, right? It looks great, Miss Caroline. Oh, it looks like it's really coming together now.
So scientists, if you're making these slime recipes, you're actually making chemistry. So see, as I pull it apart, and I'm gonna add just a few more drops of eye contact solution, because it's that saline solution. It's kind of like a salt and water solution. My slime is gonna get much stickier. So it looks like my slime is all ready. I'm gonna just move my bowl to the side. So here's my slime. This is my shaving cream slime. And you can see it's fluffy. Looks like dough. You saw me making a pizza before with it. But this gives us a more fluffy slime recipe. So it's a little more stretchy. I can mold it and manipulate it, but it won't really bounce as much as our borax solution. So it's kind of stickier, so if I drop it here, it'll stick better. But I can't really bounce it around too much. If I shake it, you get that shaky consistency. It's pretty bouncy. But overall, it's just a really, really fun recipe. So this slime that we just made is now a polymer. We just combined a lot of different recipes and we made a polymer. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera. So I just want to show you how big of a batch of slime I just got from this recipe. So it's really stretchy, really fun. Like I said, you can pretend you're making a pizza like I was doing before. You can mold it into a lot of different shapes. And in that packet we shared, there's a lot of different fun games you can make. So if you make a big batch of slime like this with your family and friends, you can all definitely share. So I'm gonna switch over back to our presentation just so you can look at that recipe one more time, and then we're gonna make our second slime recipe. So that's gonna be our slime using borax. So I'm just gonna put this pink, gooey, beautiful slime to the side and get my other mixing bowl for our borax slime. But I just have to clean up a little bit here. As I said, slime is beautiful but messy. And I'm going to switch my gloves because I don't want the ingredients to mix.
Right. So friends, as Miss Caroline is doing that, I saw a couple of comments in the comment section about what other kinds of slimes you can do if you don't have contact solution. So the next one might be a better one for you to try, right? Because you're going to see that there are different ingredients to it. Okay, so if you don't have contact solution at home, let's take a look at the next one, and maybe you will have these instead.
Yep, so
Okay.
this slime recipe is going to involve borax and some Elmer's glue. So you're going to use about 60% glue and water mixture versus 40% of water mixed with the borax. So borax is a chemical. It's usually found in the cleaning supply section at our grocery stores, but it still is a chemical. That's why you either want to dilute it. So if you dilute it with water, it is pretty safe to use. You won't have any trouble with it. So I have a water mixture here, and I added a bit of my borax. And the best thing about these recipes is that you can always add, but you can't really take out. So I just sprinkled a little bit of borax, so a little bit about this borax here, into my water mixture. And what I'm gonna do is grab some of my Elmer's glue. So I have this big bottle because I love making slime, so I had to stock up on a lot of slime supplies. I'm gonna take this and pour it into my bowl. So I'm gonna switch over cameras so you can see just about how much glue I'm adding. So I'm going to switch over to my document camera just so you can get a better view. I'm going to just pour in some glue, filling up about the bottom of my bowl. And I diluted the water and borax mixture. So what I'm going to have to do now is just add and add while I stir the Elmer's glue with the borax solution until it starts giving me a slime consistency. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to make it green. I'm going to switch up the colors a little bit So I added some light green food coloring to my glue. And I'm going to take that and just stir it a little bit. And it's important to have an adult helping you with this because you're using a lot of ingredients, you're getting a little messy. You want to make sure you don't forget any steps, and you want to make sure you're doing it safely. So this is just my glue and my food coloring for now, and I waited a few seconds, and my diluted borax and water mixture has been sitting here. What diluted means is I added more water than borax to dilute the strength of it. So here I'm just gonna slowly pour, and then I'm gonna start to mix till I start to see the consistency changing. Oh, so with this versus the shaving cream slime, you'll get more of an instant result. So before, you saw my slime kind of move pretty freely. I was able to mold it. This is what you'll get once you start adding that borax mixture into your Elmer's glue. And the good part about this recipe is you can make as little or as much slime as you want.
It's really surprising how quickly your slime was made, Miss Caroline. This one was a lot faster than the last one, right? I could see it's almost immediate, right? And you can play with it almost immediately too.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So this slime recipe is a little more immediate. You're right, Mr. Kango. And I did use a spoon to mix it until I fully saw both the glue and borax water solution mix. But as I'm feeling it through, I feel like maybe I can add a little bit more glue because it is a little liquidy and a little watery. So the reason why these bond so well together, that PVA and that borax, is because borax is a salt called tetraborate. So when it's added to the glue, it bonds to different atoms or different molecules in the glue. The molecules in the glue are carbon and oxygen, so they act very differently once they're bonded together. That's why we're able to make this really fun slime recipe. So that's why if I added the sticky glue to that mix of that borax solution, it changed immediately. It doesn't really stick to my fingers too much. As I'm mixing it, it is a little bit, but not as much as that slimy, fluffy slime we made before. So, as I said, just like we did with the Oobleck, if you need more borax solution, add more borax. If you need more glue, add more glue, and keep adding until you get as much slime as you want, or you get the consistency of slime you want. And although the results of this are instant, it will take a bit of molding and playing. I'm going to put this to the side to show you this final result of what your slime with a borax solution will look like. So once I take it out, it did take the shape of that container. But this is what the borax solution slime will finally look like after a few minutes of kneading and molding and shaping it. And I made a pretty...
It's so cool.
Thank you, Mr. Kango. So I made a pretty big recipe here. It's right over here. So this is my borax solution slime. It's ripping apart on me a little bit because I made such a big batch, but this slime isn't as stretchy, but it is fun to play with, and you get a bit of a bounce with it. So these are our 3 slime recipes for today. And now we're going to talk a little bit about our safety rules involving storing slime. So for storing slime, slime won't kind of last forever, so we have to make sure we store it in a plastic bag or a better container. So I'll show you what kind of container I'm using. to store my slime. So I'm using one of these containers. It has a lid. And I just put it in, and my slime will eventually, after a few minutes, start to take the shape of my container. But I want to avoid putting it in my fridge. I want to store it in a cool place, so I can use a container like this or a plastic baggie with a zipper on it. But I want to avoid storing that slime for a long period of time. And that's because if we're using slime with our hands and we're playing with it, we have different bacteria. And we want to just avoid having any slime or messy slime for a long time because it may go bad. So for the Oobleck, for the other 2 slime recipes, try to only keep it for 2 to 3 days max. And then you can go ahead and make a new slime recipe or try again. So again, avoid keeping it in your fridge. Just try to keep it in a stored, cool place. So, Mr. Kango, which slime recipe do you think was your favorite out of all the slime recipes we made today?
Oh man, so I'm not sure if our friends, I'm pretty sure you can't tell, but if you've ever made shaving cream slime, I think that is my favorite just because it's so squishy. It's almost like a big pillow. It smells great, and it also looked to me like a big piece of bubble gum.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I would have to say that was my favorite. What about you, Miss Caroline?
Oof. I like the borax slime because it's more stretchy, it's a little bouncy. I definitely like that slime the most, but I love the science behind Oobleck probably the most because you're really able to make a new discovery with it. You're learning about liquids, you're learning about the transfer of different states of matter. So definitely I would say Oobleck is my favorite to study and learn science about, but the borax slime is my favorite to make.
Right, and I'm really glad that we included borax or the Oobleck too, just because you can make it right from home, friends, right? So we saw a lot of comments about how you may not have borax or you may not have eye contact solution, right? But you may already have cornstarch and water at your home, right? And those are 2 ingredients that you would just need to make your Oobleck. Okay, and you can play with, just like you saw Miss Caroline doing with her slime and me doing with my Oobleck, you can play with the proportions, right? And so that means you can play with how much water you're using and how much cornstarch you're using to get the consistency that you enjoy, okay?
Yep, and cool. So just like all of our other sessions, we do want to see you on LSC in the house. So I'm just going to switch over to our PowerPoint. So if you do try any of these slime recipes, we would love to see you show us and share on some of our social media pages. So I'm going to let Mr. Kango take it away on that end.
Sure. So friends, I hope you enjoyed today's program. It's amazing that Miss Caroline not only made 1 batch of slime, but made 2 batches of slime, right? So you can see how you can try making slime at home, right? And just like we mentioned before, if you're looking for what recipes we use, we did put it in the description for today's live stream, as well as in the very bottom, so you can go ahead and download that file and try it a little bit later at a time that works for you and your family, okay? But like Miss Caroline said, we hope that you feel free to check out our website and check out LSC in the house so you can see more experiments like today's, okay? And check out more things that you can try from home to continue engaging with us in science during this time. So friends, I hope you had a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and check if there are any questions. So if you have any questions, friends, feel free to type it in. But if you're going about the rest of your day and the start of your week, enjoy. Have a wonderful week. Happy Monday, friends. And thank you for joining us today. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
So let me take a look.
Thank you
all. Go ahead, Miss Caroline.
Oh, it's okay, Mr. Kango. So thank you all for joining us while Mr. Kango's checking out those comments for any final questions. I'm just sitting here molding my slime to make sure I got that perfect consistency, because perfect slime does take time. So thanks again for joining us for our slimy time today.
Thank you, friends. Thank you. So I'm not seeing any questions quite yet. Let's see. Where are the recipes? So friends, I see there's a question about where's the recipe. So if you take a look in the chat box, right above where the chat box is, where the title for today's session is, you're going to see there's a little link and it says click here to see detailed instructions. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to a PDF file, a packet, so you can see the ingredients and recipe for the slime Miss Caroline's holding, as well as the oobleck that we tried to make today. Okay. So let's see.
So Mr.
How
Kango.
long does it? Oh, go ahead, Miss Caroline.
Oh, so I don't see anything on my end either. So it looks like we're all done for today's session, but thank you all again for joining me. I had so much fun, and thank you, Mr. Kango, for having me with today's session.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Caroline. This was a lot of fun.
Okay, so bye everyone. We'll see you next time. If you have any issues
Right.
accessing the recipe, just leave it in the comments and we'll make sure we get it to you.
Take care.
Bye everyone.